Hello everyone, Silent K here. I know this is late and I probably sound like trash right now, but I got sick a few days ago. I lost like a day and a half's worth of work being laid up, and then I literally couldn't talk after that for a few days. So we're going to try to get through this real quick, and then I can get started on the next video, which should be the last of the Rise of Bahamut cards, and I should be able to get it all out before the 29th. So first up for Bloodcraft, Moriana the Bejeweled, 4 mana, 3/3. Fanfare, recover 1 evolution point if Vengeance is active for you. Whenever looking at a Vengeance card, you should always consider the Vengeance cards that see play, because there are a lot of them that don't see play. And pretty much the only ones that do see play either offer you burst damage to quickly end the game while you're at low health, or they offer strong comeback mechanics like Drain, Removal, or AoE, so that you can shut down the opponent before they kill you. And this one does have a fast effect. It gives you an evolution point, so you could quickly evolve this and trade into something if you had to. But it's not really burst damage since it can't hit face, and it's not really a strong comeback mechanic. So I think this one's slightly below the threshold to see play, but it is an evolution point, and evolution is the strongest mechanic in the game, so it's kind of hard to say. I'm going to give it an overall 0, but I do think it's slightly below the threshold to see play for a Vengeance card. Next up, Alpha Wolfman, 3 mana 2/2, Bane. Fanfare, summon an Alpha Wolfman if Vengeance is active for you. So basically this is like a strictly worse Righteous Devil. There are a lot of differences in how it plays out. Righteous Devil gains Drain and Bane with Vengeance, and this one has Bane by default, and this is 1 mana cheaper. But effectively what you usually do is you evolve your Righteous Devil and hit something with it, and then you get a decent heal, which is a good strong comeback mechanic. You remove something, and you leave a Bane creature on the field. If Vengeance is active for you with this one, you get 2 2/2s with Bane. You probably have to quickly evolve one of them and trade into something, so you're left with a 2/2 Bane, but you don't get a heal. So it is a little bit different. It's not strictly worse, but overall I don't think the mana reduction and the lack of Drain makes this usable. It's quite below that threshold that I was talking about since it doesn't come with a heal. So overall, -1. Next up, Squall Lancer, 5 mana 4/5. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower if Vengeance is active for you. Another Vengeance card. This one does have a comeback mechanic attached to it, but it is a very small one. It's only 2 extra damage. So you get the 2 damage if Vengeance is active for you as a Fanfare, but you can also evolve it for an extra 2 damage. So if you were running a budget control deck, you might just put this in there for the evolve effect, not really expecting Vengeance to be active. So this could easily be a -1, but I'm going to give it an overall 0 just because it might see some play in budget control decks, even though it's below the threshold for Vengeance cards themselves. Next up, Blood Hungry Matriarch, Legendary, 7 mana 4/5. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers. Whenever an enemy follower is destroyed, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. AoE effects are always great for control decks, and right now blood control decks run a lot of AoEs. Usually Revelation and maybe a Demonic Storm or 2, so this could easily replace Demonic Storm since it's one-sided, while you could still keep Revelation for the emergency AoE. This doesn't have nearly as much potential for face damage as Mary combos in the current control decks, but this effect is a lot better for control decks. So overall, +1. On to Dragoncraft. We start with Owl Guardian, 6 mana 4/6, Ward. Evolve, randomly discard one of the lowest cost cards in your hand and deal 5 damage to an enemy follower. So yeah, this is basically Dragon Warrior version 2.0. One of the things that sucks about Dragon Warrior is that if you're ramping, he's a 4 mana card that you can't play on 4 mana. With this guy you can always play him on curve. Even if you ramp once or twice before turn 6, you'll have 6 mana and an evo point. And discarding one of the lowest cost cards in your hand for 5 damage is very much worth it, so overall, +1. Very strong card. Speaking of discarding the lowest cost card in your hand, Luxfang Kit, 2 mana 2/1. If this card is discarded, summon a Luxfang Kit.
Greetings!
So this beautiful young lad doesn't do much if you play him from your hand, but obviously the point is to keep him in your hand, and then you get a free 2/1 instead of discarding a card when you use a card with a discard effect. And at 2 mana he's highly likely to be discarded. This guy is good even in a normal deck that's not a discard dragon deck, but just runs a few discard effects for their strength, such as Dragonute Fist or the previously mentioned Owl Guardian. And of course it's even better in a discard dragon deck. Overall, +1. Next up, Dragon Tamer, 2 mana 2/2, Fanfare, give an allied follower +1/+1 if Overflow is active for you. There's nothing wrong with the value you get from this card, and Dragoncraft doesn't have access to many buffs, but for that reason there aren't any decks built around buffing your own minions. So even though this is fair value, it doesn't really have a place in current decks. Overall I'll give it a 0, even though it's not likely to see play. Next up, Dragonclaw Pendant, a 5 mana amulet. Your followers, spells, and effects deal +1 damage. So this is basically a better Royal Banner for Dragoncraft that does cost 1 more. And interestingly enough, it does curve in from Uriel and curves into Salamander. So you can use Uriel, a card that we haven't seen yet, to pull this amulet, and then play this amulet the next turn, and then play Salamander to regain the board. The cost and tempo loss might be an issue, but it is a very powerful effect. So I'll give it an overall 0. It does have a lot of potential though, so this could be a +1 card that I'm just not giving enough credit to. We'll see. Next up, Greya the Dragonborn, 8 mana 3/3, Fanfare, summon an Anne, Belle of Mysteria, and evolve it. And Anne, Belle of Mysteria, spoilers, is a Runecraft card, which is also an 8 mana 3/3, and when Anne is evolved, she deals 1 damage to all enemy followers when she attacks. These two cards only gain +1/+1 when they evolve, so you end up with a 3/3 and a 4/4 with the Rush that deals 1 damage to all enemy followers when it attacks. And if you still have an evolve point left, you can evolve Greya herself, and then she can attack twice per turn, so it's an interesting mix of effects, but you're probably not getting enough value for 8 mana. Dragoncraft can ramp this out though, so I'll give it an overall 0. It's an interesting set of effects, even though it does seem a little on the weak side. Onto Forestcraft. Forest Gigas, 7 mana 1/7, Ward, Fanfare, gain +X/+0, X equals the number of cards in your hand. Very similar to Master of the Canopies, this is just a big vanilla ward. As far as big vanilla minions go, you want them to have Ward because it's pretty much the best slowest play you can make, although it is susceptible to hard removal. So overall 0, you're going to get your value out of this stat-wise, and it does have Ward, but it is just a big vanilla minion. Next, Lionel Elf Prince, 5 mana 2/2, Fanfare, choose a Forestcraft card in your hand that costs 4 play points or less and change its cost to 0. So with a card like this, you can definitely try to get a tempo advantage, but since it's a 5 mana 2/2, you definitely have to get a tempo advantage, otherwise you're just going to be losing tempo. So probably the 2 strongest plays you can make with this are to give the cost reduction to an Elven Princess Mage, which gets you Lionel, the Princess Mage, then you can evolve her and get 2 more fairies, and if you play them all at once you have 8-9 worth of stats for 5 mana, or of course you can save the fairies for combos. Or you can combo this with Dark Elf 4 and get 6-7 worth of stats for 5 mana over 2 bodies, and then you attack with the Dark Elf for a fairy in hand. Other than those 2 cards though, this card doesn't really combo with anything really well. And if you don't have any Forestcraft cards that cost 3 or 4 mana in your hand, then you're losing tempo, since you're paying 3 mana for the effect. So I'll give this a 0 for potential and an interesting effect, but it's probably not likely to see play, since it doesn't have strong combos with very many current cards. Next, Felper Kitten, 1 mana 1/1, Fanfare, gain +1/+1 if at least 2 other cards were played this turn. This has a very similar effect to Elfguard, except you lose 2 stats and Ward for 1 mana, which is very much below power curve. When you're comparing followers that cost 1, 2, and 3 mana, the stat difference is actually only 1 stat instead of 2 like in the higher cost minions. You normally expect a 1 mana 1/2, a 2 mana 2/2, and a 3 mana 2/3, so losing 2 stats between a 1 mana and a 2 mana follower is actually quite a big deal. So overall -1. If you could play a hyper-aggressive deck with nothing but like 1, 2, and 3 cost followers, this might see play in that deck, but other than that, it's not worth running. Next up, Pegasus Elf, 5 mana 3/3, Fanfare, change the enemy follower's defense to 1. Evolve, deal 1 damage to an enemy follower. So at 5 mana with an evolution point, you get to hard remove an enemy follower and put a 3/3 on the board, which is an extremely powerful tempo play. And even without the evolution point, you still get a Wolfkin Curse effect and a 3/3 for 5 mana, which is still worth it. Overall +2, very good control card. Onto Havencraft, Damus, Oracle of Iniquity, 3 mana 3/2, Whenever an enemy follower attacks, destroy that follower at the end of the opponent's turn. The effect is cute, but basically it's just going to eat a cheap removal or an enemy follower. So it's basically just a 3-2 with ward for 3, which is fair value, but nothing special. The times that you are going to be able to play this onto a board against a big enemy follower and they have no answer for it are few and far between, so don't expect much out of it. Overall 0. Next up, Luckswing Reno. 2 mana 2-2, Clash, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. Evolve, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. This isn't likely to do more than 1 damage via Clash. If you evolve it in the mid game, you get 1 damage via Clash, 1 damage via Evolve, and if your opponent uses a follower to clear it, then it'll do a total of 3 damage. But aggressive Stormhaven decks can usually do 2 damage with their Evolves anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. So ultimately, I don't think it's likely to see play, but it's not strictly worse than the average 2-drop, so we'll give it an overall score of 0. Next up, Pegasus Sculpture, 3 mana Amulet, countdown 4. At the end of your turn, restore 1 defense to all allies. Now cards like this are dangerous to make quick judgments about. It's hard to tell right off the bat whether it's going to be too slow, or whether it's going to be a power play that just takes a little while to get going. So cards like these I definitely put a lot of thought into. And the effect is basically 4 healing for yourself for 3 mana, plus healing for all of your followers at the end of your turn. So it's basically like a super healing totem from Hearthstone. But it is very slow compared to something like Love's Gospel, which for 2 mana can restore 3 health to your leader and everything on the board. And ironically, Alana Haven, which makes the most use out of heals, can't afford the board space for this. Board space is very tight as it is for Alana Haven, so putting a healing amulet on the board is probably going to cost you the game more often than it wins you the game. So after much consideration, overall -1. Next up, Ancient Lion Spirit, 5 mana 4/5. Evolve, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers. At 5 mana you will have an evolution point, and this does come in the turn before Themesis, so it's a great option for control decks when Themesis is overkill. If you're up against an aggro deck with just a bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s and whatnot, you don't want to wait one more turn and then blow a Themesis on a board full of junk, so you can just evolve this instead. Overall +1. Next up, Frog Cleric, 2 mana 2/2, enhance 4, restore 3 defense to an ally. Even though this can heal followers instead of just your leader, Healing Angel is usually going to be a better play on 4 mana, even though Healing Angel is only 3 mana. Because for the most part, heal heavy decks are running it for the Alana synergy. And Healing Angel has a 2/3 body, which is better for evolution trading. This might be good enough in Alana Haven just because it's another follower based heal, but overall it's below par. So overall -1. Onto Runecraft, Piercing Rune. 4 mana spell, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, then deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. If an allied follower evolves, change the cost of this card to 1. So if you're playing this at 4 mana, it's pretty terrible value. But if it's discounted, it's pretty good value. So for an aggro mid-range deck that usually ends the game right around the time the evolve points are being used up, you're very likely to either draw it and get the discount, or not draw it at all, and it won't matter that it costs 4 mana originally. So overall we'll give it a 0, but for those specific decks, it would probably be worth about +1. Next up, Secrets of Erasmus. 3 mana spell, deal 5 damage to a random enemy follower, enhance 9, summon an Arch Summoner Erasmus instead. And of course, Arch Summoner Erasmus himself deals 5 damage to a random enemy follower at the end of the turn, so you still get the effect, it just makes sure that you don't get it twice. And you also get it at the end of the turn instead of when you play the spell. So this is a good flexible spell, and you can usually control which follower gets hit by the 5 damage, so overall +1. This is like putting Arch Summoner Erasmus in your deck, but also gives some flexibility so the card's not dead until turn 8. Next up, Daria, Dimensional Witch. No, not that Daria. That's better. Daria, Dimensional Witch, 9 mana 5/5, Fanfare, banish all the cards in your hand, draw 5 cards, and then spell boost the cards in your hand 5 times. Subtract 0 from the cost of this card, spell boost, subtract 1 more. This is a highly potent mid-range card, and is exactly the sort of card I was talking about while reviewing cards such as Craig and Clark, when I said they were more for a follower-based spell boost deck. So you have Daria in your hand, you spell boost her a few times, and then you want to play her ideally around like turn 5 or so. She flushes your hand, draws 5 new cards, and spell boosts them 5 times for a potential huge tempo gain. Some of the effects you can expect are a 0-cost Emilu, Fate's Hand, Ogler, a card we've yet to see, a full charge Summon Snow, a 6/6 Runeblade Summoner, a 6 damage Fire Chain, a 6 damage Lightning Shooter or Wind Blast, a Rime Wind that targets followers 6 HP or less, and a 5-cost Flame Destroyer. Overall +2. This card will most likely introduce mid-range Runecraft. Next up, Anne, Bella Mysteria. 8 mana 3/3, Fanfare, summon a Greya the Dragonborn and evolve it. So we've already seen Greya, and this is her BFF. You get a 3/3 Anne and a 4/4 Greya who can attack twice per turn, and of course you can also evolve Anne herself and get another 4/4 that deals 1 damage to all enemy followers when it attacks, which is an interesting mix of effects like I said before, and probably not enough value for 8 mana like I said before. But this is even less good than Greya since there's no ramping in Rune, so overall -1. Next up, Ogler, 5 mana 3/4. Subtract 0 from the cost of this card, spell boost, subtract 1 more. So this is a pretty basic vanilla minion by itself, but of course it can be a great tempo play when you spell boost it a few times, and it synergizes with Daria of course, as I said. If you draw this with Daria, it will cost 0 mana and you can play it immediately. Overall +1. On to Shadowcraft, Feathered Patroller, 3 mana 3/2, Ward. Necromancy 4, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. So this is basically a smaller Skull Rider, 1 mana less, 2 Necromancy less, and 2 damage less. The Necromancy cost might be a bit high for the amount of damage you can do, and there are better things to do with your Necromancy, but overall it's an average value card, so we'll give it a 0. Next up, Shadow Reaper, 2 mana 1/1, Fanfare, gain Ambush until the end of your opponent's turn. Whenever another allied follower is destroyed, gain +1/+1. So this card definitely has some potential for stats. You can play it, trade a few things in, or use your soul conversions on other things, and then whatever's on the board your opponent tries to kill, and you can gain +2/+2 or so. It does require followers to be destroyed though, so it doesn't combo with Howl or Voices of Resentment. Overall we'll give it a +1, just because it does have potential in some aggro and tempo decks. The ambush prevents it from being removed right away, so if you can get a couple buffs on it, it is an above average card. Next up, Underworld Watchman Kawi, 7 mana 4/5, Ward. Last words, randomly destroy one of the strongest enemy followers in play, and then restore X defense to your leader. X equals the destroyed follower's attack. So this is an anti-hard removal ward, a very rare thing. Typically your opponent wants to play their hard removal so that the strongest minions can get in to do some face damage, but if they do that then they're going to lose their strongest minion immediately and heal you for an amount equal to that follower's attack. So this is going to force them to make suboptimal plays. They might have to trade their board in so that they heal you for very little, or they might have to use their hard removal anyway just because they have no other options. And this does have Nephthys synergy, even though this does cost 7 mana, so it does cause your Nephthys deck to curve a little high. Overall though, +2. Seems like a very good card. Next up, Necro Assassin, 4 mana 3/3, Fanfare, destroy an allied follower, and random enemy follower. This does not activate if you do not have an allied follower in play.
Greetings!
Because this is a conditional card, and because you don't get to target which enemy gets removed, you obviously don't want this as a main form of removal in your deck, but it is a good inclusion just for some additional tempo. And mid-game tempo is one of the places that Shadowcraft is kinda weak, so overall +1. Onto Swordcraft, Blitzlancer, 3 mana 3/2, Rush. So this card isn't very good outside of a control deck, because a 3/2 Rush is most likely going to just deal 3 damage and then die, which is not what you want out of an aggro or mid-range follower. So for 3 mana deal 3 damage, you want to compare this with Surefire Bullet, and this does have trade-offs with that card, whereas Surefire Bullet gets better if you use it against an enemy follower that has been evolved. This follower gets better if you have an open board. You can just play this as a 3/2, and then possibly buff it with some other officer buffs. So overall 0. Next up, Monica, Cloudhall Admiral, 5 mana 4/4, Commander, Fanfare, summon a Knight. Evolve, deal X damage to an enemy follower, X equals the number of allied followers in play. So it's basically a smaller Warbound Cavalier with a lot of extra benefits. It summons a token, it controls the board if you evolve it, and turn 5 is a great turn to evolve followers. and it curves into Sage Commander, which Warbound Cavalier does not. So it's a great little package of effects, overall +1. Cyclone Blade, 5 mana spell, choose an allied follower and deal X damage to all other followers. X equals the attack of the chosen follower. This card is obviously for a control deck. It is a high cost AoE, and it's not 100% consistent since you do have to set up a follower to use it on. But it's not too difficult to set up for this card not to see play. And even though this is a double-sided effect, you do get to control how much damage it does. So if you're up against an aggro deck with a bunch of garbage on the board, you can just do an AoE for 1 or 2 damage. And if your opponent has bigger stuff on the board, you could play something, evolve it, and then do a lot of damage with it. And it does leave you with at least 1 undamaged minion, since it does not damage the minion that you target with the spell. So overall +1, a pretty good AoE effect for control decks. Next up, Amelia Silver Paladin, 4 mana 3/4. Fanfare, put a Gelt Vice Captain into your hand. Then changes cost to 0 if at least 3 enemy followers are in play. So for the basic Fanfare, you get to draw a card, and a 3/4 for 4 means you aren't losing any stats for the effect. And if you get the full Fanfare off, it's a great value. You can play the Gelt right away if you want to, and get 6/6 worth of stats on the board for 4 mana. Overall +1. Onto the neutral set. Hamsa, 2 mana 0/2. Fanfare, gain +X/+0. X equals the attack of the strongest enemy follower in play. So it's not too difficult to get better than average stats with this card. Your opponent obviously wants to play good followers. On curve, you're not likely to get more than a 1/2 or a 2/2 though. Most 2-drops I see play have an effect, whereas this is just a vanilla minion. But this would be pretty decent in an aggro deck that runs a lot of 2-drops anyway. You play your 2-drops with effects on turn 2, and then you play Hamsa later on against maybe like a 3 or 4 attack minion, and you get better than average stats. Overall 0, not a bad card, but you're not guaranteed to get good stat value. Next up, Goblin Breaker Tina, 4 mana 3/4. Evolve, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, deal 5 damage instead if it's a neutral follower. So this is a great Evo control card for the neutral set, and as I said before, the scoring system is based on class, both for power level and utility, and this is a bit of utility the neutral class lacked. The only real good Evo card in the neutral set so far has been Humpty Dumpty. So because it is above power level, and because it is a type of unique utility for the neutral set, it gets an overall +2. Even though class specific evolves for 4 mana tend to be better than this one, you could use this to supplement those. Next up, Fortune Hunter Fina, 5 mana 4/5. Evolve, put a Goblin Mage into your hand, and change its cost to 0. This doesn't even require you to run Goblin Mage in your deck. If you evolve this on 5 mana, you get +3/+3 if you play the Goblin Mage immediately, and it draws a 2-cost card from your deck. So overall, it's a great value Evo card for the neutral set, and just like Tina, this gets overall +2 for that reason. Because this comes in at 5 mana, and most class-specific strong evolve cards come in at 4 mana, this has a much better chance of seeing play than Tina. There is a question of why Fina's quote fortune happens to be a Goblin Mage though. I'll leave that up to you to think about. Next up, Lyriel, Celestial Archer. 2 mana 2/2, evolve, deal 1 damage to an enemy. This is a pretty basic card, and most decks run 2-cost cards with better effects. But if you're running a deck with a lot of 2s like an aggro deck, or if you have a limited collection, this might see play. Overall 0, not strictly bad value, but there are better options for most decks. And finally, Uriel, 4 mana 3/3, Fanfare, put a random amulet from your deck into your hand. This is a pretty good utility card for decks that run amulets but only specifically want 1 copy of that amulet on the board or in their hand at any time. The reason being that if you draw multiple copies of that amulet, then you have dead cards in your hand, whereas Uriel herself is a 3/3 for 4 mana if you no longer need her, which is still playable. So instead of running 3 copies of an amulet that you only want 1 of on the board, you would run 1 copy of the amulet and 2 copies of Uriel. And then if you draw Uriel first, you can play her and draw her into your amulet. Or if you draw the amulet first, you can play the amulet and then just play Uriel later as a 3/3, which is still better than a dead card. So this does offer some useful utility, which makes certain fringe amulets a little easier to play. So overall +1. And that's it for this video. I know it's a little bit late, but I've already started work on the next video since I've been backed up, so hopefully I can get that one out quickly. Hope you found this informative and entertaining. Thank you all for watching, and tune in again next time.